So, welcome to today's video. I thought I will also make a mid-year's coloring video and wanted to share all my finished pages so far. I will do all the pages inclusive of the month of August, not the ones from this month because the month isn't finished so far. So yeah, I wanted to start with the really big pictures. Those are A3 sized. The first one is Princess Show. It's a Chinese coloring book. I've have a flip through of this one and also of the A4 version, which has more pages than this version here. And I've done the Princess and the Pea. So it's more like a block where you can rip off the pages. And yeah, we'll have to move it a little bit because it's just too big to get on camera in one go. And the outlines here are in different colors, so that's where most of my color choices came from. Like the dress was outlined in green and so on. And also you have little colored versions of the princesses. So at least the dress and the hair and that you can look up. Of course, you could have used other colors, but I've chosen the ones in here just because I have the A4 sized version as well, where I could use different colors if I want to. I have used some metallic watercolors for some of the elements, like here the roses down here, and the rest is a combination of colored pencils, and I have done everything with watercolor base and of course the metallic watercolors. Yeah. The eyes and the background color here was already printed on, so I didn't color that, but I have tried to look up if you can color over it, and it is not like a glossy print. It is a print where you can easily could color over it, so if you don't like the printed on version, you could choose to change that. The next one is from the Top brand. It's a German brand. I think some of you already know. Ursula Schwab is a German illustrator, which has various books from the brand. And this one is a very old one. I've bought it in 2016. It's the biggest Zen color book. Cities, landscapes, and space, where you have different, one is a desert one, then you have some space coloring ones, or jungle ones, or you have specific cities. Like here in the beginning, you have different cities, like here you have New York, Rome, very big pages. And what I did here was just finishing a WIP from 2016, so it was a very old one. Was this eagle page, and I did finish some of the feathers, which were still blank, and the background. But because it is from 2016, so that was a time when I didn't know what you can really do with colored pencils. So I did just color one one area with one color. And because of that, of course, I had to finish it in the same style, at least the eagle one, and did a little bit more with the background. So just colored pencils on this one, but the paper is thick enough, so I will definitely try in the future to use some watercolors on this as well. So sorry. I want to switch now to first to the smaller books, starting with the postcard set from Hannah Carlson, Wollige Winterdromen. I think it is something like Warm Winter Dreams, or don't know for sure for that one. And I did one of the cards completely with watercolor. Used a combination of normal watercolors and metallics. So I've done some elements on the birds with metallics, but also the berries are colored with metallics. And yeah, I think it turned out quite nice because the paper is like really thick cardstock. You can really work a lot with the watercolors, so I definitely will probably color all of them with watercolors, as it is my favorite media. And yeah, I do enjoy having pages where I can work with watercolors, like here the background, just some dark blue watercolor and some water drops to create the texture here. So that was this page. Then I have this little kids watercolor coloring book, Summer Fairy Tale. And this is just a nice, cute book to do some quicker pages in between, just because the size is really small. I've done 2 pages in here. This here I've done the little girl on the tree trunk or stem. What's that called? Not quite sure. Done completely in watercolor. You could use those watercolor they added in here. I've used it, tried it with the first page I've ever did here, but they're just really terrible. So I've chosen not to do so. You could, they are perforated here. You could rip that part off if you wanted to. And yeah, the paper is not really a watercolor paper, but it's also a very thick cardstock. Not as thick as the postcard set, but thick enough that you can really work quite nicely with watercolors on it. Also, everything watercolors like that, watercolor sheets, they are always dye-based, not pigment-based, so the light fastness is really poor on those. That's why I prefer to use my better watercolor, which are pigment-based and have a much better light fastness rating. The second page I've did here was this one, where the little girl is sleeping on the grass, and it is done completely with watercolors and some very old Etchuspica glitter pens. Did use them on the flowers and a little bit on her dress. So those were the 2 pages I've done in here. Then let's come to Rita Beermann. So starting first with Mein Winterspaziergang, which is my winter walk book. I've done one of the pattern pages in here. Where is it? Really thought it was in here. There it is. That this one here. Yeah, I based everything with watercolors and gone over it with my super old colored pencils. And the light blue here is also just watercolor, and I used some hybrid silver gel pen, which is super old. I have some old hybrid metallic gel pens from my Copic time, and I didn't use them for around 10 years, so I was really surprised to realize that they are still in working condition, because I thought after that long time they must have dried up completely, but they still work pretty well, which definitely is a big plus for the brand, in my personal opinion. If you don't use a gel pen for like 10 years, and when it still does work, then it definitely has a very good quality. Because I've bought over the time a lot of cheaper brands, and the thing what I have in most of the cases was that after a few weeks or months they dried out. So you buy them cheaper, but you don't have a very long time to use them. So yeah, really good quality. So that was the first, and then I did a little Easter page in the Mein Frühlingsspaziergang, which is the spring walk book. Also done with a watercolor base and the very old colored pencils and a little bit of pastel chalk for the background. Yeah, I thought at least one of the Easter pages I will have to do. I'm not really a big fan of Easter pages, but I thought at least if I do one per year, then someday they will be filled as well. And then I did a few pages in here. First, what I did was coloring those small images in here with a combination of watercolor as a base and my old colored pencils. And then still another, don't think so. We did this on stream. That was chosen by my viewers. The stamp with the little beach houses. That's from the South Africa part. And when I first saw the little beach houses here, the first idea was to make them really colorful. And then I did look up wooden beach houses in South Africa and found pictures where you have houses exactly styled like that in exactly those color combinations with the blue, the green, and the yellow and the red. And that's why I thought I will do that as well. And again, based everything with watercolor, colored over it with my very old colored pencils, which is always the case when you don't see a lot of light dark movement, then it is often because of the old colored pencils. They are really, really hard, and the problem I often have with them is that you have colors which are very, very different, very light red and a much darker red, and then you put it down and it looks like you just colored it with one color, which is really frustrating. So really have to look how to use them in the future, maybe take them in combination with another set or so, just to get a little bit better variations. I've used some acrylic gouache for the seafoam. That was a fail by because it just said gouache and I thought it is a normal gouache, and then you had to open it. It's a tube, so yeah, couldn't give it back then. And yeah, I think for doing highlights or something like that, it is still usable, so it is not completely a fail. The light yellow is done with a pastel chalk, and I have some metallic watercolor here used as well. And then I have done the mandala heart in the back. It's in the Morocco part. And I've searched the North Africa part, and we have Morocco and we have Egypt. Egypt is very Egypt in style, which didn't fit in for our Tunisia holiday this year. We went to Tunisia for our family holiday, and then I've looked up the pages in the Morocco part and did find a lot of pages which were fitting, but I had only a very, very small set of colored pencils with me, and I didn't want to ruin the super beautiful pages in here like those two. Those would be very fitting because we were in the Sahara and did ride with camels, and we did meet some fennec desert fox and could pet them. So those were very fitting, but they are just too beautiful to do with the very small limited palette I had. So that's why I thought, okay, let's do the heart. There I can work with the limited palette better and will not be sad afterwards that I did ruin the page. And the colors I've chosen were the red and the white are the colors of the Tunisian flag, and the blue I thought for the ocean and for the water of the oasis, and of course the sand color is for the Sahara. So I thought, yeah. And when we booked the holiday, I thought I will have to take this book with me and do at least one page, so I can say that in meine Reise durch Afrika, which is my travel through Africa, I have actually colored a page in Africa. So yeah, those were all my Peter Behrmann pages. Then I have Daydreams from Gabi Wolf, which probably, this is not a coloring book from her which is very well known. Most of the people know her Minimania books. She also has 3 books called Houses 1, 2, 3, which have very cool houses to color if that is something someone enjoy. I do enjoy coloring those, so I have them. But yeah, that was the first one I've bought from her, and I did color this one. I try to, or at least not try, most times if I have a complete new artist where I've never done any pages before. I try to do pages like that, just that I get a feeling for the paper. Because if you ruin a page like that, it is not as bad as if you would ruin a page somewhere in the book. So that's why this was my testing page, and yeah, I'd done another page in here, but this is for the month of September, so you will have to wait until the end of the month to see it. And that's just because the paper in her books is sadly just like Amazon paper, so it is not really made for wet media. That's why I've used a combination of colored pencils and also the hybrid gel pen, the old one in gold, then some newer one. This is from the dual metallic gel pen. I've also used the old gold, the silver one, so we do have a little shine, a little bit of sparkle in it, and I absolutely love the color combination from dark blue to turquoise. Yeah, super cute books from her. Then I have Island Escape from Jade Gedeon. That was a second-hand buy, and this is a watercolor coloring book. It is printed on watercolor paper. I do have another book from her. She has like 4 of those books. I have Rainforest Escape as well, and there's also a Carnival Escape and another one I don't have. I only have 2, the Island and the Rainforest. The problem is, at the time I've bought the Rainforest Escape, all the other books you weren't able to buy new anymore, so you have to be lucky to have someone selling those, and I found this one secondhand, and the good thing was that no page ever was colored, so it was like new. And yeah, like I said, I like to do test pages, and I've done the test pages here, completely done with watercolor, also the background, and just here I used a little bit of neon gel pens, just because the page was so empty, so I added a little pattern in here. And the funny thing is, it says that it is printed on watercolor paper, and it is the exactly same paper as the Gugelis coloring books do have. And I wasn't completely sure if this is really a genuine watercolor coloring paper, or it is just a thicker paper which also works with watercolors. But as it says watercolor paper, I think it is just some kind of very unusual watercolor paper, which is funny because the Rainforest Escape book I have doesn't have this kind of watercolor paper. It has more like the standard watercolor paper you would buy if you would buy a cellulose watercolor pad or block. So yeah, that definitely was like when I've got this one, like, okay, it is watercolor paper. So yeah, then I've done a few pages in here. This is called Cocoa Princess. It is one book of a set. You can only buy those princess coloring books, these little booklet styled in sets. And the main problem I had with this one were that it has glossy paper. And I've tried it with gouache because normal watercolors don't work on it. Colored pencils also don't work on it. Gouache was really, really hard because I have to go over every area like 4 or 5 times and had to be super careful to not lift off the color again. And then I thought, what can I do with it? So I've bought a small set of very cheap acrylic markers. And even with the acrylic markers, you have to go over the areas like 2 times to really get a nice result and not a streaky result. So I have done a few pages. I tried to do, if possible, 1 page per month, so that I slowly fill up the pages. The good thing is the background is always colored, so those are very easy and fast pages. This is one of the acrylic marker pages. Definitely the palette I have is very limited, so I don't have a lot of opportunities. Like with the yellow, the yellows are not, they are too close together in color shade, so you can't really do a nice blonde hair, for example. So that definitely is a problem with the cheaper set, but I don't want to buy a very, very big amount of acrylic markers just because I know this definitely won't be a medium where I ever will color whole pages with. I think with finer ones, with a fine tip for highlighting or smaller parts in other books, definitely, but not like that. So I've done these 2 as well. Acrylic markers, there are some silver and gold ones. That is one of the nicer results that really turned out super ugly. Then that is one of the pages I've done. Oh, I'm not quite sure. Maybe that's one of the September ones. I've done one in September. I think that's the September one. So you have a little sneak peek. Oh, that was one of the first 2. That's where I've done with gouache, and you can definitely see how streaky that looks. So that's something I didn't like. That was the first one. That's also with gouache. That is probably the best page in the book, just because the color combination did work out very well here. So yeah, like I said, done quite a few pages in this book, just to get it filled over time and have some pages which are a little bit faster. Then this is one of my Chinese chibi coloring books, and we've done 1 page also as an on-stream project. Done with a watercolor base and colored pencils over it, and also with some pastel chalk. Yeah, there are really some really cute pages in here. Haven't done a lot of pages. This is a whole series of books. They are like this one, the 2 red ones, the green, and like 5 books have this ancient China style. Then there is one with little monsters, and also one with more modern styled girls in it, also in the same setting. Do really like those books, but I haven't done a lot of pages in them so far. So that was the one I've done so far this year. Then I have this Grimm Fairy Tales coloring books, which has nothing to do with Grimm's Fairy Tales, and I did realize after a while, because it was one of the first books I've bought, that I'm not quite sure if this is licensed, because there are like names written down, so I wouldn't recommend buying it, but as I do have it already and I couldn't give it back because I did realize that much later, I will use it, but yeah, like I said, the images in here definitely nothing have to do with Grimm fairy tales. There are some pages which are related, like a Little Red Riding Hood, for example, but most of the you have like The Little Mermaid, which is not a Grimm fairy tale, it's from Christian Andersen. And we do have other things like Alice in Wonderland, which is also not a Grimm fairy tale, or pages like this here, which has nothing to do with fairy tales at all. So the paper is Amazon printed style. That's why I've done it completely with not watercolors, with colored pencils. Then another princess book is this one. I think this is a set of 6, which we have like ancient China and like more Rococo styled and fairies, and yeah, this is one of the more Rococo styled books. And I've done 2 pages in here. I've done this one here with the apples, and the paper is very not Amazon thin, it's a little bit thicker, but still not thick enough for wet media, so I've done it with colored pencils alone. The good thing here is also that the background is already colored, so at least the ones which are not overflowing with flowers, like this one here, are nice for a little bit faster coloring. I've done another page in here, which I thought was the first one I've done in here, and I thought, oh, it will be a nice fast page, but because of the many flowers in the background, it really took a long time to me to finish, so it wasn't that fast. But I absolutely love how the lips turned out here in the page, because the color and the not so harsh lines, I think it looks really nice. So that's something I really like on that page. Yeah, also of course just colored pencils. Then I have some watercolor sets from Superior, and some of them, which is the Tai Chi color series, which are like small palettes you have to turn to open, they have included always this here, and there are 3 images printed on watercolor paper to color. So that's where I've done the woman, which didn't turn out like I wanted. I do like how the hair turned out, but the face really, yeah. And you have like different motifs, some berries, some lights, a giraffe, and yeah, that's the one I've done here. Then I have a lot of those from AliExpress. Those are images to color. Mostly those are sets of 8 different images. Sometimes there are only 6 or 4. I think I have one with 8, not 8, 10, I think, but I think the most is 8. And they are most times are printed on 100% cotton watercolor paper, which is super nice because it's the best you can get from Bauhong. And this set is called Butch's Every Day or something like that. and it's like, yeah, about a little hamster. And I've done one page with watercolors, of course, and I really like how this turned out, and I think he's really, really cute playing. So yeah, definitely like this this paper and how the image turned out, and you can definitely see when you look up closely the nice granulation of the watercolor. So yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite pages this year so far. And it is a 300 GSM paper, so it is very nice and thick paper. And this is also one of the watercoloring pages sets I have from AliExpress. Normally they do look like that, and they always have also the artist who made the images on it, but this is a more like different styled one. It's also square shaped. Normally they come in either A5 or A4, and this is a square shaped one. And as far as I know, it is, I'm really sorry for everyone speaking Chinese, Dun Huang Fei Tiang. I do have a coloring book, which is also called something like that. At least the name is integrated. And I also have like this dancers with instrument in it. So I think it is maybe some kind of traditional Chinese dance where the poses and the instruments are like a fixed thing, because this and the other book are very similar. So this is also 100% cotton paper, and I've colored it, of course, also completely with watercolors, with normal, and I've added some metallic watercolors as well. And the funny thing was I did finish it last month, and then I realized when I done my finished pages video that the border has some pattern on it. So actually it is not completely finished. Focus please, there you can see like some little leaves. So I will have to someone to really finish it with the border, or maybe I just leave it like that. I mean, you really have to look very closely to see it. But what I do like is the color combination of the orange and the rose color. Definitely will have to use this combination more often with other pages. So then, Witches Around from Uziku. I've done 2 pages this year in this one. That is the newest of the witches books from her. I really, really love them. They are so cute. It is so sad that it is like Amazon paper, because those definitely would work really well with watercolor if it were on a thicker paper. So I did think about maybe copying some of the images I like on a watercolor paper in the future. And this I've done as a combination with colored pencils and some glitter gel pens for the stars. which are in between, which are, one of them is the hybrid dual metallic, and the other one is like a cheaper brand. And then we have done one on my live streams, which was also chosen by my viewers, which is the Midnight Shopping, which is also the same combination with the glitter gel pens for some elements and metallic, not metallic, colored pencils for the rest. And that's definitely also a page I do like a lot, how it turned out. And yeah, like I really do like the combination I've used for her shoes. That is something I thought I will have to use somewhere else again in the future. So that was Witches Around. And then I've done, finally, this year I touched it. I do have 3 of the books. I've the unicorns, the mermaids, and the magical creatures ones. And so far I haven't touched any of them. And this year I said I really have to do my first page in one of the books. And of course, because I wanted to test the paper, I've chosen this page in the front, which is like a double spread. And I thought a long time, how do I color this? And then I thought maybe do some like day and night color theme. So I have the warmer colors on this side for the day, which is a combination of watercolor for the base, and also for the clouds are only done with watercolors. And over the unicorns I've gone over with some colored pencils. I've used some metallic watercolors, as well as some metallic gel pens, and I've also used pastel chalk for the background. And then I have done some cooler colors for the night side. So yeah, I really was thinking so much over this page, and I don't know how many times I've took the book, looked up this page and thought about how to color it, and then just didn't have any idea and put it back again. So I really like the result of how it turned out in the end. So now coming up to the bigger books. First, let's go to the square-shaped one, because the pile is not as big here. I have Nature Mandalas from Melpomene Hatsipanagnoto. That's how the internet said to me that it is pronounced. I hope I didn't butcher it completely. And this is a book which, all of her books are very beautiful. And I haven't done a complete page so far in here. And I don't know, but it intimidates me a lot. I think it is a combination of the very detailed images and the thicker, darker lines, which really, I don't know why, but it is like it is hitting me a lot. And yeah, that's why for my paper test I just did the little flower in the background, which was easy to color and not as intimidated by it as the other ones. But I really do want to do one of her complete pages in the near future in one of her books. So also the first ever mythographic page was in Dream Garden by Fabiana Atanasio. And of course I've also done the front page as a test page, and I absolutely love that those pages are single-sided and they always have a border and not go until the point here, which was really, because of the perforation, a problem here, because the page started to fall off, so I had to fix it with some tesa stripes. And yeah, it is a combination of watercolors, watercolor crayons, colored pencils, and some metallic and glitter gel pens. I don't really like how it turned out, because it was one of, I think, the second time I ever tried those watercolor crayons, and because I do live in a half-timbered house. We do own a house which is a few hundred years old, and it is made of wood and clay, and therefore we have a very dry humidity in our house, which is nice because of you never have to worry about mold, even if you don't open the windows after showering, for example, just because the clay will just take the dampness of the room and transport it to the outside. But the biggest problem I have here with watercolors is that it dries too fast to work with, and with a normal watercolor paper I do have my tricks how to work around that big problem, because if you don't work fast enough you get those harsh edges or those dry marks. But of course this is no watercolor paper, so I can't use the tricks here, and I don't really like how it turned out. So I'm really thinking about maybe working over the middle area again to hopefully fix it. But I didn't had the ambition so far to do, but maybe I will do in the future. So definitely want to do a real page in here also in the near future. And the same goes for Tomislav Tomic Sprokjesbos. Hope to pronounce that correctly, because of course I also did only do the intro page here, which is done with the framing is completely done in watercolors and metallic watercolors, and the bigger background areas are just done with pastel chalk, which I always use a fixative spray over it. And with the one I'm using, I have no problems with all the other medias I've used. Never had any problems that it started to smudge anything, and it really works good because there's never any pastel chalk coming off. So yeah, but really want to do one of the pages in here as well. And I did realize when I did take a look at all my pages that I think I only have one or so really big in these big books, like a double page spread done ever, which is in the Imagimorphia we will take a look at next. So I really have to tackle one of the big double pages in any kind of books in the future, just because I haven't done so a lot of them. So one is done in here, or two double pages, but one of them is not done this year. This was one of the draw your own pattern pages, and I do hate pages like that. If I want to draw myself, I will do it completely on my own without a coloring book. If I choose to color in a coloring book, I just want to color and not to draw any things or patterns. So that's definitely my biggest problem with the Animorphia book, because like every third page is draw your own patterns, or fill or complete the patterns, or draw what else. There are so many of those pages, and I first thought about what patterns should I draw in those pages, and then I thought, no, I don't want to draw any patterns. I will just do some very colorful feathers, and this is done completely with watercolors. Just the 3 patterned one I gone over with some colored pencils, and I've used some washi tapes to make some patterns around the feathers, just because I thought just the colored feathers are too boring, and with especially the black background, the colors pop a lot more. So definitely not one of my favorite pages, but I think it turned out quite okay, and I'm okay with the result of it and how I did the use a pattern page and do it in my way without having the need to do any patterns in here. And I've done another page in here, which funnily was also a pattern page, but I haven't done a pattern. Oh no, I have done 2 more pages. The first was this one here. I've seen this color combination on another channel with Witch's page, and I thought the color combination is really, really beautiful. So I wanted to do the color combination, and because this image is like 3 or 4 times in parts in the books, and I've already colored all of them, I thought I would do something different here and use this. And then the problem was I thought, okay, I will do this page like as a next page and do it with the color combination. And then I forget about it and started the whale and the stingrays with another color. So I had to go over it with some gouache to whiten it again, and so I could use the color combination, but still you can see those are a little bit darker. And yeah, was based everything with watercolors and gone over with colored pencils, and I've done here some pastel chalk. Yeah, the result is not the best. I should have done a better blending in some of the areas. I definitely love the color combination, and I do definitely want to use it more in the future, but I think it was just not the best to choose this page for, just because I had to do some images in separated stripy versions, and that just looks a little bit strange, I think. And the second one I've done was the tiger, or the third one was the tiger one. There was like patterns in the stripes, so I thought I base it completely with a very opaque black watercolor, and then I could go over it with some white and gray colored pencils. And the draw your own pattern I gone over with a white gouache, so I knew I could color over it. And yeah, like based everything with watercolors, gone over it with my very old colored pencils. I think the tiger turned out quite nice. The background is an absolute mess because the paper was so smooth for my cheap oil pastels, and that was the second time I've ever tried working with oil pastels, and the color just didn't stick. Like 90%, if you started to blend it, just rub off the page. It didn't stick on the page. So that is definitely a page. I want to go over that one again, like base it maybe with a little bit of what's it called? I know that some people use it as a base for watercolors, not a satin glazing liquid. That's what I used for sealing, but it has like a little rougher. I really don't know at the moment. My brain sometimes is really a mess. But it is something I know. I think Coloring with K use it a lot as a base for coloring with watercolors. Over it didn't work for me with watercolors, but I thought the rougher structure of the material would probably work well with the oil pastels. But because I did try the oil pastels, the same oil pastels, on rougher paper, and they did work really nicely on it. So I think it is just a problem of the smoother paper, that it first doesn't stick and it does get streaky like that. So that's definitely something I want to fix. And then I realized after watching Maya's video, because before I've worked on here, I've watched her oil pastel tutorial, that she also have the Mangyo oil pastels, but she has soft oil pastels, and I have the oil pastels, so they are not as soft. That definitely is also a problem. So when they are empty, I will swatch to brand or the same brand to soft oil pastels, which are much more softer and more creamier. The oil pastels I have are a little bit closer to a wax crayon, which also, of course, is a little bit more on the problematic side. So I think the tiger really turned out quite nice. The background is a mess. I will have to fix because I just can't stand how it looks. And yeah, definitely fur is something I'm really, really bad with. That is definitely something I want to improve my skills in the future, because yeah, I'm like there and I want to end like here. So there's a big learning part I have to do on fur. So that was the tiger. So then we come to the more like A4 sized books, and this is translated to me to something like ocean and mountains. Really sorry, but the holder of my camera, I think it starts to, I will have to buy another one probably very soon, because it is, the wheels are really fixed very hard, but it still moves a lot. It's really driving me crazy. So this is a combination of various Chinese coloring books on a thinner paper. And some of the paper is like patterned, some of them are normal, and you have images from various books. I do have the other books, so yeah, I didn't know this before. The paper is like too thin, in my opinion, for water media, and some of the papers do have like this square shaped little pattern on it. not quite sure how good you will see it if you're coloring over it. And then you have some pages with some little images, and also some of the pages are dedicated to learning how to draw. And I took one of the pages just to do a comparisons between the brands, so I can see which brands colored pencils I do like, which I don't like so much in their how they look, and also of course to improve myself a little bit, like a training area, how to color the eye part or the ears. And also because I've never so far was brave enough to do colorful skin, and that is something I've seen Amy do a lot, and it always looks so beautiful when she does it, like she did from the Chris Ortega pages. She done a green elf, and it just looked stunning, and I wanted to do it, and in the future as well. So I thought this is a good way to test out some color combinations, so some skin color combinations, so I can use one of this in the future as well. So it was like a little training page in here. Then this is another Chinese book. Yeah, that is more like a test book for me, because the images, most of the images are not very beautiful. That is one of the most beautiful ones. I've done the little image here, the emperor, which is, I think all of the pages in here are a combination of watercolor and colored pencils, and I've used some gold metallic gel pen on here, and also done this one here, which is also one of the nicer images, and this one here, and I've used some acrylic paint I have for the background as well. And strangely, the colored pencil from here bleed through the paper here, so the guy now has some darker marks on it. And the funny thing is, this image was colored before this image, and when I colored this image, it didn't bleed through at the point, so that happened later. So that really is strange, because I've used these pencils, those are my very old pencils. I've used them in so many pages already, and I never had the problem that they bleed through month afterwards. So yeah, really strange. But the book itself has a lot of not so nice pages in it, like this one. This was a test page for something, and just look at the faces, they are not done very good. So yeah, it is like a test book for materials or techniques and stuff. Then I have this pocket room from Southern Lotus, and there are colored 2 pages, and that were the 2 pages where I did say, okay, from now on, with papers that are thin enough that I can't work with water media, I won't use my old colored pencils anymore, because I've said it before, the problem that I do have with it, that you take 3 pencils which are very far from each other in their color shade, like a light blue, a medium blue, and a dark blue, and then you put it on the paper, and afterward it just looks like you colored it with one pencil. And that happened here 2 times. Luckily for me, it were the like the names side and the intro side, so not one of the images, but yeah, it looks just terrible. So yeah, that was the reason why I said, okay, those aren't good enough anymore to do work with alone. If I have a watercolor base, then it is okay. And if the paper works well with them, this definitely didn't work well. It looks very streaky. And the same problem I do had here. So yeah, that were the parts where I said, okay, those are only for pages which I'm not overly stunningly beautiful in my personal opinion, and then you do have to use a watercolor base, because yeah, the results are quite nasty. Then I have two books. I have the Little Antique Shops and I have the Little Mansions one. And it is from an artist which calls herself Lolita Diamond, and you have this photo in here. And I did realize, I did look up the book with the Little Mansions one. There I didn't have the very obvious problems, but I did realize that when I colored the image here, that those are AI generated, so don't buy the books. There are like 20, 30 different ones with, like here it's antique shops, or you have little, all houses based themes. But the thing where I did realize this was, like I said, while I colored, the paper is thinner, so it is, I've done it only with colored pencils, and I did have some points where I was confused while coloring, just didn't know. Like here you have the leaf from the plant from the side of the pot, stuff like that. Or like the cables, which are very strange in some areas. And then I started to look up other pictures, and then I did realize that if you are looking closer, you have strange things, like some street lanterns grow out of trees or stuff like that. And yeah, so that's definitely AI generated, I think. So all the Lolita Diamond books I personally considered AI generated and would not buy. So I definitely don't buy any of those again, because it really makes it hard to color an image. First off, I don't like the AI generated. I want to support real artists. That's the first and main important thing. But the second also is that it does definitely make coloring very hard if you can't really see which part is what. You have stairs leading to nowhere from nowhere. You have lanterns growing out of trees and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really hard to color pages like that. So in Freak of Beauty, I've done one page. This was the first book I've ever tried coloring only with colored pencils. So that's, even if it has some very creepy images, it is definitely a little bit special place for me. So I mean, only with colored pencils to really do shading and stuff like that. That was my ever first test page for that. So where's the page I've done? I have done a lot of pages already in the book, but done only one page so far this year, so I definitely will have to do maybe in October another page. I've done this one because the paper is Amazon kind of paper. I've done all of that with colored pencils, and the background I've done with my Copics. And that was the other point next to the hybrid gel pens where I thought, after not using them for around 10 years, I thought they would be completely dried out, but they are still working. Of course, they did lost quite an amount of ink over the time, but they are still in working condition. So that's why I have used some Copics for background coloring, and I definitely want to use them more in books which are single-sided, for especially when they have a thinner paper, maybe like basing, instead of watercolor, basing it with Copics. So yeah, done this page in here. Then I have done two in this Let's Color manga magazine. That's one I've bought in the UK last year. We were there for holiday last year, so I've done 2 pages in this one. This was the first one, and I started the skin with the Obos watercolor pencils, and it really looked terrible streaky, so I changed to another brand, because that was the very first time that I had pencils absolutely not working on a paper. Don't know what it is with the paper, but it is really not so easy to work with. It is of course a thinner paper, but I never had something like that before, that a pencil really had so many problems on a paper. So that was the first one I've done. And then for mermaid, I've done a mermaid page, and this one I really like. I like the orange violet color combination, and it is of course also done with colored pencils. I've used softer ones here on this page, and it worked a lot better than the other ones. I also used some of the hybrid dual metallic gel pens to give her some sparkle, and I also used, I don't know if you can see it a little bit maybe here, I've gone over her tail with the Wink of Stella clear one, which is also like not used for around 10 years and still working. So yeah, definitely was surprised about that. At the time I've bought a Wink of Stella pen, it was clear was the only color you could buy, at least in Germany. So the colored versions came a lot later. I only have the clear one, but yeah, it does sparkle quite a lot. So those are the 2 pages I've done in this coloring magazine here. Then I have also finally touched Selena Fennick book, and I have some of her books, but only these compilation books, which are cheaper, as if you would buy all of them individually. Of course, you only have 1 copy of the image, not like if you buy the books individually, you have 2 copies, but yeah, I think 1 copy is enough for me. I've done the image which is called Indigo, and of course of that name I thought I will have to choose a color palette with a darker blue, and I thought because in the Daydreams books I done the color combination from dark blue to a turquoise teal, and I liked it that much. I thought I'd do it with that page as well, and I do like how it turned out. I think it was the first time I really done colorful hair, because normally I only do like realistic hair colors, so I finally was brave enough to tackle colorful hair, and I do like how it turned out. Also done some dual metallic gel pens on her nails and on the pearls, so that those are glittery, and I have gone over the bubbles with some interference watercolors, some no-name cheaper brand, just to give them some shine. So that was the Mermaids compilation book. Then another Chinese coloring book is this one. There I have done the first page with watercolors as a base, and also the black background parts are just watercolor, and then over it with colored pencils, and then various glitter gel pens for some parts. And this is the cheaper brand which pleats through. I knew that, but as it is a single-sided image, I thought it is not really bad. And I've read a lot of or seen a lot of videos where people say, oh, my Chinese coloring book came already damaged, the binding is damaged, because it looks like that. And this is not damaged, it is meant to look like that. Most of my Chinese coloring books have it like that. And this is just because with this kind of binding, and I wished most of the books would have a binding like that, you can open the book at any part and it opens flat. And that is so nice to have. So yeah, that was this book here. Then another princess book. This is called Mask Party. And all the princesses wearing any kind of masks. I've done one page in here, and this is a book where you have on one side the colored image, and then you have the same image to color. The background is already done. You don't only have to color the princess. Of course, you can copy the image or not. In this case, I wanted to copy it. The paper is yeah, like a little bit thicker than Amazon paper, but not thick enough for water media. So I've sticked to colored pencils, and I've gone over it with some area, not gone over it, but some areas I've colored with metallic and glitter markers or gel pens, and over the pearls, which are also with a glitter gel pen, I've gone over it with the Sakura, better said, it's called Sakura, not Sakura, those glazing pens, the clear one, just to give them a little bit of more shine and a little bit of 3D image. So yeah, actually like how it turned out. This was the princess book. Then this is something called, or translates to something like Antique Palace, and I've done one page in here, and we've done it on a live stream because it was chosen by my viewers. I've called it Concubine, don't know, but yeah, that's what I called her, because she's wearing very traditional court clothing. And that was the very first time I've tried with the oil pastels, and I had definitely problems here as well. just because it looks so splotchy, because on some areas it did stick better than on others. So definitely also the point where, say, a basing on with at least those not soft oil pastels, I have a basing with a rougher gesso. That's what I searched for in my brain. The gesso is maybe a good way, with a thinner layer, so that you have a little bit more structure. Maybe it sticks better to it. Yeah. I've gone over it with the satin glazing liquid, and that's where I realized it doesn't work with going over it with watercolors, because I thought just go over everything. It's easier than to go in between those very fine parts, but then it started to lift and smudged over it, so it did ruin the page a little bit. And therefore, with any kind of watercolor, stay far away with the satin glazing liquid. Yeah, I did use watercolor as a base, colored pencils, metallic watercolor for some parts, and the oil pastels for the background. If you not look at the splotchiness and the problem here I do have with oh sorry, the camera already moved again. It's driving me really mad. With this, then the rest of the picture I do like a lot how it turned out. But yeah, that's really bothering me. Yeah. The oil pastels also bleed through the dark blue, but as it is single-sided, that's not really the problem. I mean, you have some small images always on the left side, which is related to the things on the right side, but yeah, not so problematic, I think. But it's a very, very beautiful book. There are some very beautiful images in here. Like the dancing girl, I like a lot. And there's the other one. She's also very beautiful, or her with the traditional clothing. Yeah. Then I have Twilight Garden from Maria Trolle. This I started this year, so all the images I've done so far are from this year. Not a lot, but I've done the little birdie with the feather and the name site. All of them are done with my old colored pencils and a watercolor base, and here I've also used a little bit of pastel chalk for a soft background color. And I used to write down my name with a color shifting ink, which depending, I don't know if you can see it because it's not so big, but depending on how you look, it looks more blue, turquoise, or get some violet color. And then we've done one page in a live stream. The little deer page. Also done with my old colored pencils and a watercolor base. And I've used some of the acrylic paints I have for the background. Those are super, super old. And before there were these chameleon flip-flop watercolors, you could buy colors like that only with acrylics. And that was really, as someone who normally don't use any acrylics and use watercolors, it was really frustrating, because that was for a very long time you couldn't buy watercolors with this effect. And that's why I've bought 2 sets of cheaper acrylic colors, and I've ever really used them. And that's why I thought I will use them in coloring books when I want to have a background color. And yeah, this one here is, depending on how you look, it looks more blue or more violet. But the violet doesn't really show on camera. Don't know why. Sometimes it doesn't work with the camera. Yeah, that was the other page I've done in here. Like I said, really have to improve my fur skills. Then I have done, sadly, only 1 page, and Tales from the Forest Kingdom. That's the book I'm concentrating on from my Hannah Carlson books. But I've chosen 1 page in here which I honestly didn't like, as it was uncolored, and I absolutely love how it turned out. I love the page now. So sometimes images you don't like, if you color them, you start really to love them. I have this with this page, and I had it with 1 or 2 other pages in the past as well. So that's definitely something. Yeah, that is this page here. I call her the Valkyrie, and it was the first time I was brave enough to try a little bit more defined coloring with a nose, and first time ever tried doing eyeshadow with colored pencils. Everything is based with watercolor. I've gone over it with colored pencils. A lot of the areas are done with metallic watercolors. And yeah, if you are using the metallics, if you don't use them too watery, more like a creamy texture, then it gets really opaque, and you not have it like this splotchy, streaky which you will get when you have it watered down too much. And then I've used the, that was the first time I tried to use the Schminke Hordam super granulating watercolors in a color. Okay, I do the background with it, and I will look if you really see the granulation and the color separation effect on the paper, even if it isn't a watercolor paper. And because the result turned out so nice, that's when I thought, okay, we'll use them a lot more in the future. You do see the granulation, and you do see the color separation. You have areas where you see more of the potter's pink. You have areas where you see more of the blue of the ultramarine. That's, I think it's the galaxy violet. So yeah, definitely I can say it does work also on non-watercolor paper. The main thing is that you use it in not in a creamy texture like a metallic watercolor, and to use enough water so that the particles of the pigments can move. Because the thing is with these super granulating and color separation effect is that normal non-granulating watercolor pigments, or the pigments used in non-granulating watercolors, are pigments which have always the same particle size. And granulating watercolors have different sizes of particles. And that's why you don't have this even texture and have this granulation optic. And of course, because of the different sizes of the particles, they move differently. Because, of course, the smaller particles are lighter, so they move more with the water. And the bigger ones is heavier, so they are sitting more in the area. And sometimes you get this flocking effect where they are even clump a little bit more together. That's when you're starting to get these bigger, darker piles. And yeah, the biggest thing is when you have colors like that and you want to have a nice granulation and also this color separation effect, you need to use enough water. Of course, with not watercolor paper, it is a very fine line between too much water for the paper and not enough water to get this effect. But yeah, definitely try it, be brave. I have used it now in various books, and if the paper is like the paper in Hannah Carson books, thick enough, then it does definitely show and come out very, very nicely. Can definitely see the effect. So yeah, and like I said, I absolutely love the page. It's definitely one of my favorites, absolute favorites so far this year. Very, very proud of the page. Another one of my favorites is in this time traveler book. I've heard or saw videos where some people said it is somehow related to some of a dressing up game. I don't really know, but there are very beautiful images in the book. That's why I've bought it, and I've done the page with what I call the elephant pair. And there is a little booklet that comes with the coloring book, where all of from the artist or artists, I don't know if it's multiple ones, you see the ones, and yeah, I've chosen to copy the colors just because I did like it a lot. And this was another one of the pages I've used my old Copic markers for the background color. Yeah, really, really like how this one turned out. Really, really one of my favorites. And yeah, I've used also the dual metallic gel pens from Hybrid for the metallic parts, which are also very sparkly. So now to the books of Gugelis, which I absolutely love. Those are just so stunning. These are on this a little bit different kind of watercolor paper, which is definitely something you need to get used to. It is not so easy to work with in comparison to a standard watercolor coloring paper. I did start a video how to color in the books. The first part is out. I just hadn't had the time to do other parts of it. I think, yeah, that is the page I chosen for the tutorial video. If I'm remembering it when I upload the video, then I will put the link in the description box below. And the page I've done is this double page spread, so one of my very rare double page spreads. Yeah, there was a bit of grayscale on this page, on some of the dogs here, which is a little bit hard to get the watercolor to stick on. So definitely there are some images which are just line art, and we have other images which have some grayscale. Definitely will probably use some colored pencils over that areas to get a little bit more detail in those grayscale areas in the future. But yeah, it definitely is, if you are getting used to, quite nice to work with. I have a little bit of bleed through here the areas, just because I tried so many times to go over the darker areas of the grayscale that it did bleed through. But yeah, I think it is still a nice page. But the one I've done that was the Colorful Time, and this one is the Find Color book from Gugelis. The one I've done in here was a very long on-stream project. The image was chosen by my viewers. It is also a double page spread, and that is one of my best pages I've ever done. I'm really super proud of how it turned out. It was the first time I've done like this translucent kind of thing with gouache. This was my first try, and I think it turned out really good. And everything else is done just with watercolors. And I'm super proud of the big statue because I think it turned out so good. It really looks like a gold or messing kind of statue. It was like 20 streams I needed to finish this page, but I'm so happy and so proud how it turned out. The biggest part was this, and I don't know, I've done on some areas like 6 or 7 layers. Nothing did bleed through. So yeah, it was just because my mistake on the other book, because I've used too much color while it was still wet, and if you really wait until it's completely dry and go over it again, then you don't have the bleed through problem. And I was sometimes while the coloring process, I just couldn't see the color anymore, because most of the time we used only this color, and it was a little bit unnerving and exhausting to work so monochromatic on such a big scale. That's not something I do normally, but it was so worth it in the end. I think, yeah, like I said, it's one of my absolute most favorite pages I've ever done. I'm super proud of it and so happy how it turned out. And then the page I've done in Geheimnisvolle Natur, which means mysterious nature, from Stephanie Kilgast. It's a French artist. And I've stumbled across of this book when I was at my paint doctor's appointment, which is like 2.5 hours away in a bigger city, and then we gone to the city and done some shopping, and I thought, oh, just look at the local bookshops. When I always see videos from US colorists, what they all find in bookshops, I must say in 99% of the bookshops in Germany, you don't have a nice selection of coloring books. You have some, most times like 5 to 10 books, if even you have that much, and most of them are like Zen doodling stuff, and that's just not my cup of tea. And then I've seen one book in between, which was a hardcover book, and then I thought, okay, I've never heard of it. I've took it out and looked inside, and it just blew me away. It is so beautiful. it's like nature taking over kind of theme, which is a very unusual theme as well. And yeah, the images are just beautiful. And there are so many half-timbered houses in here, which I do love, because of course we live in a half-timbered house, and my whole family-in-law also lives in half-timbered houses, and friends of us as well, because we live in a very small town which has tons of half-timbered houses. And some of them are very old, like the ones from my parents-in-law, which is around 1,000 years old, by the way. So I have a very special connection to half-timbered houses. And that's, of course, something I do love a lot. And that was my very, very first body color with the wonderful Maya. And I've chosen to do a similar color palette as here, just because I did love the original version of the artist so much. So that was mine, completely done with colored pencils and black acrylic marker for the background. I did try to use watercolor as a base, and I started with this very light yellow, and it did bleed through. You don't see it probably in the video because it's too light, but it did bleed through, so I can say it does not work with watercolors. I've heard now that some people tried to base it with something to go over it with watercolor, or want to try. So not quite sure if this works, but without it, it definitely will bleed through. It is a very open pored paper, so it bleeds through very, very easily, sadly. Because it is a thicker paper, I thought it would work with watercolor. I did do a comment on one of the artist's videos, because she has a YouTube channel here on and she kindly wrote me back and said she wanted to do the book completely on watercolor paper, but sadly it wasn't her decision, it was the decision of the publisher. So yeah, that's why they didn't do it, because probably it is just watercolor paper is really, really expensive, so probably what would be too expensive. But she said in the future, if she will do another book, she would rather do a few images less and choose a better quality paper instead. And that is definitely something I highly, highly appreciate. Yeah, I'm really, really happy that already a few people bought the book as well. Funnily, all the people I saw who already bought the book are people I follow for a long time now, and that makes me really happy, because this book is absolutely stunning and it definitely deserves more love. So I'm so happy that some other channels did also buy the book. I really, really hope that it is successful enough that the artist will do another book in the future, because her art style is absolutely beautiful and I really, really love the book. So highly recommend the Mysterious Nature book from Stephanie Kilgast. I will put a link in the description box below to Amazon, to the book. It will be an international link, so it will look if the book is available on your country's Amazon, and if not, then it will show you the article on Amazon Germany, just so you know. And if I do forget it, then please, if you want the link, then if I forget it, then just write me a comment, then I will add it later into. And then my very last page for this year so far is in A Colorless Kingdom from Chris Ortega. I have her books for a very long time, and this was the first time I've really colored an image, because her art is so stunning and so beautiful. I was at the point that I said I started just a year ago with working only with colored pencils, and my skills were not at the point that I feel comfortable and confident enough to say I can now color an image of her beautiful work, because I was too afraid to ruin it. And that's why I waited for so long to start working in one of her books. And I did do the female knight in here this year, also chosen by my viewers, done on stream. And I'm so proud and happy with the result, I must say. I've tried to do a more limited color palette with a lot of grays for the stone and the armor, and just to add a little bit of brown, gold and gold yellow and blue, and I think it is quite nice and harmonious with the colors. Also their hair, I am really happy how it turned out. It was the first time ever I've tried to color leather with colored pencils, and I'm so happy and proud how it turned out. Yeah, I'm really happy about the result. I've just used the hybrid gold gel pen and the hybrid dual metallic gold as a little bit of shiny touch to it, but that's it. All the other things are just done with colored pencils, and I think I've worked either with the Colour or the Brute colored pencils. I'm not quite sure which brand it was, but one of those two brands. So yeah, those are all my colored pages so far for the year. I think I counted it, it was like 54. I know I'm not the fastest one, and I had a lot of months in spring and summer where, due to my medical condition, I was like 50% of the month on complete bed rest, so I couldn't color at all. That's why I have like 3 or 4 months where I just was able to color like 3 or 4 pages. But I still think it is a good amount for me, even when in comparison to a lot of other colorists, it's a very little amount of pages done. But yeah, definitely some pages which are very good and which are very happy and proud of. Some were also, of course, a total failure in my personal opinion, but yeah, that's life. At least I didn't ruin pages where from the image to begin with I thought that these are one of my most favorite images from the artist or in the book or something like that. So yeah, that's at least a little plus point. So yeah, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you want to let me know which colors are your favorite, I would absolutely love to hear. And as always, a thumbs up or a follow is very much appreciated, because it really helps me on the channel. So thanks everyone for that. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and to see you soon in one of my other videos. Take good care of yourself, and thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.